Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, before I start the class, let me share the new announcement for this class. First, we have some change for the team 2. Um, so since we have change of the members, so I just actually list the team members for each of the team. I think as team 1 still going to be the same with 5 members, and the team 2, I believe we have a new member, Christopher, uh, Lucy, and the I think one student just dropped off after the you know uh, 3710. I think Martinez, he he uh, he's not joined this 4700. Now the second thing I want to do is um, so in the last semester, um, so I actually organized a couple of you know team meetings. So during the class time, I actually work with each of the team during the class time. So team 1 joined this section with me, and then after 20 minutes, then we switch a team. But this time I'm going to change this format. So I'm going to create 2 Google Meet links. Um, so here are the 2 links. So each each team going to use a link. So so periodically I'm going to want you to have some kind of team meeting. When you have a team meeting, so each team going to use your own dedicated Google Meet link. So that way, so both teams can have a meeting, have a sessions, uh, have a section simultaneously. So this, it's going to save us some times. So so next Tuesday going to be the first meeting. So next Tuesday at the 12:30. So instead of logging into this main class link, so each of the team members going to link to. Okay, let me see. Is there anyone join the meeting? Okay, so yeah. Okay, so so instead of like logging into the main classroom, the virtual room that the one we are using now, each team member gonna actually click the corresponding link for each members in the team 1 gonna click the first link, team 2 gonna click the second link. So for the first meeting, so I want you to talk about the milestone I'm going to post, you know either tomorrow or this weekend. So I'm going to post our next milestone project. So I want you to talk about this. And I think the first milestone going to be, I want you to actually look at the last project, the last milestone. I want you to look at the data flow diagrams again. So so that's why I'm going to give you an overview of the data flow diagram with respect to how to create a data flow diagram and how to check to make sure the data flow diagram follow the syntax. Make sure there's no syntax error for the data flow diagram. And I check each of the data flow diagram for each of the team. I think there's still a room for improvement. So that's why I want to revisit the data flow diagram, and we're going to rework our data flow diagram. Okay, so that's the first meeting. Oh, and also I hope that you can use each of the team section for the for some kind of a social, uh, because unfortunately we cannot meet face to face. So you know this this session is going to be a very good time, so you can meet each other. So I hope that everyone gonna actually open the video. Don't use the avatar, but open the video so you can talk to each other, see each other. So some of you may already know each other, but if you don't know the other people, you can at least see who is your team member. Okay. So and then I want you to talk about um, the milestone. I hope I can give you some kind of topics you can talk about, and also if you come up with any questions, then you can discuss with the team member and put together any questions you might have, and you can ask in the class. So this coming Tuesday, you know please make sure each team member just log into the sections for your team. So hopefully I can actually jump back and forth between each of the sections. Okay, so I can join one section and then quit and join the other section. So hopefully we can have a small chat, small discussions, and then for the next project milestone, then hopefully we can actually create a better, a much better data flow diagrams, and then the entity relationship diagrams. Okay, that's basically the hope. So, so basically for the first couple of weeks, we just want to warm yourself, warm yourself up, and work on, again, revisit the data flow diagrams and entity relationship diagrams, and then we can actually move things forward. So that's basically the plan um, for the for the Tuesday's class. Okay. Um, let's see. So the next thing I want to do is I want to quickly, again, quickly give you the overview for the data flow diagram. And in this one, we want to, we want to know how to create a data flow diagram, and what's, you know, technically, you can actually create the data flow diagram any way you want. You can actually collect all the material, all the information. Then you can come up with a design, say, okay, how many processes I need to have for the whole project. So for example, I need maybe one process to process the manuscript for your project, right? So the author gonna actually submit the manuscript, and then the the member of you know the team can actually review the manuscript and pick the manuscript from the data store and review it, and then I create another process called the review the process, and then in the accounting part, we can create another processes, so we can actually come up with that design. But there's actually better way to do this. So in the textbook, they provide some of the way to create the data flow diagram. Uh, the way they use is based on the use cases. Because remember, in chapter 4, before these, chapter 5, we talk about how to create the use cases for the system. So the use cases basically create some kind of it the the cases that you actually view the system from user perspective, whoever actually going to use the system, and then what is the process, what's the procedure for accessing the system. So so I'm not going to actually go all the way back to the use case, but we assume that we already have a use cases. Okay, we already have a use cases for the system. And then how can we actually build the data flow diagram from the use cases? Okay. Now, the first one we want to create is the context diagram. Okay. Let me let me check the slideshow. Okay. So the context diagram basically is a very simple diagram. As we mentioned that for the context diagram, there's only one process. The whole system is represented by one giant process. That process, so that process comes with the, I don't know, I want to draw something on the screen. I don't know why it's not working. Okay. I think there must be something wrong. For my touch screen, so it does not. Just hold on. Let me. Okay, let me actually reset the work area for my touch screen. So it's okay. Okay, so now it's working. So for the context diagram, you're going to treat the whole system as one process, and the number of this process is 0. It's process 0. Okay, so then you can put the system name. For example, the dentist appointment system. So or the publishing system. And then you need to actually define all the possible users. Each user going to be actually represented as external entity. Okay, so the user may actually interact with the system. Okay, that's a data link. Okay, so this is very simple. You need to actually identify all the possible users, external users for the system, and then what each of the user going to interact with the system. For example, in the publishing systems, and you have a general manager, you have what it is called logistical manager, so they can actually manage the inventory. So to check whether actually I need to order more inventory or not. So this is another person who can interact with the system, and also the author who want to submit the manuscript to the system. Okay, these are all external entity, so they're going to interact with the system for a different purpose. You can draw the data link between external entity and the system. So this is the actually context diagram. Simply draw one process symbol, and so then you're going to read through the use case and add input and output list in the form, as well as the source and the destination. So you just read through all the use cases. Okay, what's the potential input, what's the potential output list in the form. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I'm going to actually again use one of the example. Okay, and as well as their source and the destination. Okay, so all the external users will be showed up either as in the source or in the destination. All the external entities could be either in the source or destination. Okay, so usually all the input or outputs will come from or go to external entities. Okay, so that's such as person, organization, and other information system. Okay, if any inputs and the output context connects directly to the data stores, in the external system, then create the external entity which named for the system that owns the data store. Okay, that's something we can do. And data stores are not included in the context diagram. Okay, so context diagram only interact with the system itself. Data store going to be inside the system, as we mentioned last time. So at this moment, it's just a general map of Massachusetts. You don't care about Boston, you don't care about Worcester, you don't care about any city like a Fitchburg. So you don't see anything. You just see the state of Massachusetts and how these Massachusetts interact with neighboring states. Okay, so 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 that's why you look at the use cases first and try to identify all the external entities. Okay. Now, data stores are not included in the context diagram. So at this moment, you ignore the data store part. And small data flows often are combined into a larger data flow. Okay. So, so for example, you have a whole bunch of communication between patient and the system. Then you can actually, in the context diagram, you can probably, instead of drawing all these each individual, you know, data link, you may actually combine this data link into a giant one. But then you can split later on. So, so that's something we also going to talk about. The the if you combine small data flow into a larger data flow, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to change any of the data flow. Okay, you don't change the data flow. So whatever the data going to come in back and forth between these external entity and the system will still be the same, but except that the larger data flow basically only just combine these small data flows together into one, so you can actually save some space. So you don't want to create the entity and context diagram, then so you provide all the details communication, all the details data between the external entity and the system. You have a whole bunch of data link. No, you don't want to do this. You just want one data link or two data links. It's two major data links. And then when you actually zoom into the level 0 or level 1, then you can split the large data flow into a small data flow. So when you're splitting the large data flow, doesn't necessarily mean you actually one data flow becomes two data flow. Doesn't necessarily mean you add a data flow. It just basically means you actually provide much detail for this large data flow into a detailed uh, content, the detailed information, and then it's split into the two data flow. That two data flow should be equivalent to the large data flow. Even though two data flow, it's basically combined to form the large data flow. So you don't actually add additional information. You just actually add additional details for the same information. Okay. Now the next one is the major one. You create the data flow, DFD fragment. Each use case gonna contains gonna be used to create one fragments. So if you have a three use cases, you're gonna have a three data flow fragments. Okay. Now these fragments, if you have a three use cases and a three data flow fragments, and then later on we're gonna combine these fragments into one level 0 data flow diagram, a complete one. Okay. So now I'm going to stop here and we're going to use an example. So the example here is, you can actually see it's in the chapter 4. In the chapter 4, exercises B and C. Chapter 4, exercise B and C. In the exercise, in the B, they ask you to create a set of use cases for accompanying dentist office. Okay, so these are the details for the exercises. That's for B, and that's for C. And then the C, complete the use cases for dentist office in X as B by identifying the steps and the data flows within the use cases. Okay. Now, for this exercises, I'm not going to ask you to do it because it's supposed to be in chapter 4. So suppose I have the solution, okay, for these. So I create a set of use cases. Okay. So the first use, you know, you know, when a new patient are seen for the first time, they complete a patient information form and that ask for their name, address, phone number, and a brief medical history, which are stored in the patient info file. So hopefully, this one statement going to be use case 1. Okay. Now the second use case is going to be when a patient calls to schedule a new appointment or change an existing appointment, the recipient checks the appointment file for the available time. Once a good time is formed for the patient, the appointment is scheduled. So the second one is about scheduling an appointment, and that's a use case 2. And if the patient if the patient is a new patient, incomplete entries is made in the patient file. The full information will be collected when the patient arrives for the appointment. Now, because appointments are often made for in advance. So, for example, if it's a new patient, I just call the dentist's office, say, okay, I'm a new patient, and I just actually referred by one of my friends, say, you are a very good dentist, so I want to make, you know, I want to make appointment with you, and I want to visit your office, to, you know, fix whatever the problem or um, wash your teeth or whatever. So I want you to provide a service for me. Okay. So in that case, so when the recipient, the secretary or whoever answers the form says, oh, it's a new patient. So what they're going to do is they're going to create an account for that patient. Okay. Ask for some basic information like your name, um, patient information for like ask your name, address, phone numbers, and but not detailed information because so once you collect all the patient the name and then schedule an appointment and they say okay your next appointment is going to be February 6th, 2 o'clock, so then when the patient comes to the clinic, so then the recipients are going to ask the patient to fill a detailed form. Okay, so that's basically the one. So if a patient is a new patient, an incomplete entry is made in the patient file. The full information will be collected when patient arrives for the appointment. Because the appointment are often made for in advance, the recipient usually mails a reminder postcard to each patient 2 weeks before the appointment. So that's use case 3. Okay. Okay, so now here's the answer for each of the use case. Uh, okay, I take it back. I think this is probably not the use case 1. Use case 1, use case 2 probably going to be slightly different. Let's actually do that. So the first use case, a patient make or change an appointment. Okay. So this the primary actor for this use case is a patient, and here's a short description that this describes how a new appointment is made or an existing appointment is changed. So this use case basically also deal with either new patient or existing patient. So I think the use case gonna deal with these 3 cases, but not necessarily in this 3 orders. So let me actually delete that one. Um, Okay. So not necessarily that way. Okay, so the first use case, we're going to do this. So here's the major import. Okay. So first, when a patient try to call to schedule appointment, okay, so the patient need to provide these information. Okay, so when the patient make a call, so the patient need to provide these information. The first one is patient name. Okay, so then they can actually, the patient can express, I want to make appointment. Okay, so then the patient need to say the designed appointment. So that means I want to schedule appointment on either Monday or Wednesday. Okay, so that's a kind of request that the patient may have. Okay, or the patient is an existing patient. They just make a call and try to change the appointment, existing appointment. So appointment to change. So that's the other possibility that the patient is going to actually input this data. And then the other import the system going to do is, so the recipient is going to check any possible available appointments. Okay, so the recipient received the call, say, okay, someone want to make appointment. I got a call from the patient. And then the recipient is going to check the appointment file. Normally check the calendar to see the calendar for the dentist. And if the patient provide the desired appointment, and then the recipient going to check, okay, that patient want to make an appointment on Monday, so I check the next Monday. Okay, so the next Monday looks like the dentist, the schedule is completely full. So now let's check the Monday after next Monday. Okay, so then we have the dentist has a one slot, so 2 o'clock he's available. So they need to check the appointment file and then get the available appointment. Okay. Also, the recipient need to check whether this patient is an existing patient or new patient. Okay. So every time when the recipient receives a call, he or she need to check two information: whether this is a new patient, whether and if it's a new patient, then that new patient, that the patient name is not in the patient file. So the recipient need to create a new patient file for that particular patient. And then also then the recipient gonna check the appointment file to check whether what's the next available time, so they can make appointment. Okay, so that's mostly the input the recipient want to get. Okay, and this. And the major output is, okay, so the scheduled appointment. So once they settle down, say, okay, next Monday is not available, and then Monday after next Monday, like a February 20th, okay, the dentist has a time at the 2 o'clock. Do you think it's a good time? So the patient, the recipient just to basically confirm with the patient, and the patient say, wow, sure, that's a good time. So then they settle, they agree with the time, and then the scheduled time will be sent to the patient. Okay. Also, the scheduled appointment will be recorded in the appointment file. Okay. It will record it in the appointment file. Okay. So these are the possible information. During this, before you settle the scheduled time, so the recipient may actually send a couple of available appointments to the patient to say, okay, so you want Monday, but I find out for the next couple of Mondays, the dentist is not available. So are you okay with Friday or Thursday? So the the recipient may send a couple of available appointment times to the patient to say, do you think that any of these time going to be good for you? So it's just like some kind of handshaking process. Okay, and then the recipient can also check the patient name. If the patient say my name is whatever, so then check the patient name in the patient file to check whether the patient is an existing patient or not. So these, so some of the info data link from input and output are somehow related, but the things about the data flow diagram is you probably have a data link between the external entity and the patient and the system, and the system and also the patient file or appointment file. So these are actually, but the data flow, the drawback for the data flow diagram is that this data link doesn't have a timeline. So which data link is corresponding to which data link over here? Okay, so definitely looks like here's most likely the what happens. Okay, when a patient make a call. So when a patient make a phone call, here's the recipient. Recipients. So patients say, okay, make a call to the recipient. Say, hey, my name is Bob. My name is Bob. So in this case, the patient are gonna actually basically when the patient say my name is Bob, actually patient provide the patient name, right? That's the import. Patient name is imported. Okay. Now in that case, the recipient may actually ask the patient to say, are you an existing patient or you are the new patient? Or the recipient may not ask the patient about the information. The recipient may just check, I'm Bob, I'm Bob, actually say I'm Bob Johnson. And the recipient gonna check the patient name. Check the patient name over here. So Bob Johnson, let me check the patient name. So, oh, I cannot find Bob Johnson. So then the recipient may ask the patient, are you a new patient? And yeah, the caller say, yes, I'm a new patient. And then looks like then you provide information here, import information, and also you actually, the recipient get the patient, check the patient name and check whether the patient is in the patient file. So that basically, so the recipient basically check the file, patient file for the name. So that's the import. That's, and then get the patient file output. Okay. I'm sorry. The output going to the patient file. And then this way, these information, data link information are provided. Okay. And then the patient say, okay, I want to make appointment. Okay. And then the recipient may ask, what's your preferred time or date? And then patient provide the desired appointment information. And then the recipient check another file. It's a appointment file. Okay, to see the available time for the dentist, and then provide the available appointment. Okay, get the available appointment from you know from the patient the appointment file and provide this to the patient. Okay, so these are the information that's just going back and forth between the patient and the system. Now, in order to draw this, so once you actually define the major input, say the import is patient name, desired appointment, appointment to change, available appointments, existing patients information. So you provide that information to the system, and then the system can actually, so then you can actually draw the fragment of the data flow diagram of the level one. So what they're going to do is you're going to actually going to say, okay, here's the patient. Okay. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a process. I call this 1 in the level 0 process. So this process I call the make or change appointment. Okay. So make a change appointment. So now the import file you're gonna expect to see is the patient are gonna provide a patient name. Okay. The patient may provide a patient name. Okay. And also, so then the system gonna actually check the once they provide a patient name, the system may check the patient name, right? Okay. The system may check the patient name in the data store. That's called a patient file. Okay. If it's an existing patient, then it just say existing patient or not. So what kind of data are you going to send back and forth from here to here? Okay. Input is this, and output is check patient name. Okay. So let's see. Okay. When you check the patient name, so then once you check the patient name, if the patient is existing patient, then the patient file gonna return a data called existing patient. So that's the import. That's the import to the system. This is actually the process in the system. You want to process the information. So you get the import from the patient about the patient name. So you also get the import when you check the patient, which is the output. So send the output to the patient file, and the patient file return with the existing patient. That's the import. So that's the output. So every actually arrow from the process to other entity, that's output, and that's the import. So now you deal with the two imports here, right? You have done with the import, the patient name, that's the import, and you actually done with the existing patient. These two import has been dealt with. Okay. And then if it's existing patient, then most likely, if it's an existing patient, you're gonna actually you may have two actually things. One, you can make a new appointment. Okay. So then you're gonna actually check the desired appointment. Desired appointment. Okay. So here's my desired mode appointment. I want to Monday, Wednesday, or Friday afternoon. 2 o'clock. And then the system gonna actually say, okay, I receive your design appointment, but I cannot guarantee. So then I'm gonna go ahead and check another data store, and I call this the appointment file. Okay. Now I call this data store 1. That's data store 2. Okay. So then when the patient received the design actually appointment, then you're going to check the available you're going to check the available appointment. That's a data flow. Says, okay, what's the available appointment? Okay. So that's the so you deal with 2 output. Check a patient name, check available appointment. Okay. And then it will also send the patient to say, okay, so based on your design appointment, based on the available appointment, I can actually, basically send the appointment. If it's appointment change or scheduled appointment. Scheduled appointment. So the scheduled appointment is based on the information provided by patient, the design appointment, and also the available appointment from the appointment file. So you combine these 2 information, you basically decide, okay, there's a time match for Wednesday 2 o'clock. So it's not conflicted with the patient's request and also the available appointment. So I just send the patient the scheduled appointment and say, I can actually set an appointment with that time. Okay. Also, you will send this scheduled appointment to the appointment file because you need to send both. Okay. To record the new appointment. Okay. Now, before we set it up, maybe before these scheduled appointment, the system may also send the available appointment to the patient. So you have a design appointment. I gave you the available appointment. Then the patient, pick up the time and then confirm the time, and then the system gonna send scheduled appointment to both the patient and the file. Okay. Now, if it's an existing patient, it's not the new appointment. It's an existing appointment, and they want to make an appointment change. Then it's the appointment change. Okay, depend on the actual situation. So this is actually the the fragment data flow diagram fragment for this particular use case. Okay, it's a little bit messy, but it's actually not that complicated. So this each of the data link address the the major import, major output. Okay, major import are the data link coming from the outside to the process. Major output is the link going to the different entity. So you have how many actually output? Let me see. So I think appointment change is coming from patient to the system. Yeah, appointment change is coming from patient to the, so that's an import from the patient. Import from the patient. The source is the patient. So basically, that's the description of the data link. That's the source, and that's for the output. That's a destination. Okay. Okay. So that's a data link. That's an import, that's a source. That's an import, that's a source. And that's the output, that's a destination. Output, destination. So that's, yeah, this arrow goes here. So now once you finish this, you can basically count, how many input for this process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 inputs. Okay. How many output? 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Let me change the color. So the input are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's output. Oh, sorry. That's output. So that's import. Another import. Another import. Another import. Okay. What else? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I have a 5 input. So the patient name. Okay. Patient name. Desired appointment. Yeah, I have a designed appointment, patient name, designed appointment, appointment to change. That's appointment to change. 3. Available appointment. That's an import. Available appointment import from appointment file. Oh, that's a mistake. Available appointment is actually an import, which is from the appointment file. So available appointment is an import from the appointment file. And the existing patient is coming from the patient file. Okay, existing appointment from patient file. So I got the 5 import, and then I got the 4 output. 4 output, scheduled appointment to the patient. Okay, I have a scheduled appointment to the patient. Okay, and then the scheduled appointment to the appointment file. So scheduled appointment. Okay, let me actually schedule appointment to the patient. Scheduled appointment to the appointment file. Okay, and then available appointment. Okay, available appointment, and check a patient name. Available appointment is output to the patient. Okay, available appointment. Check a patient name is output to the patient file. Yeah, so I got all these input and all the output so which is fine. So I'm pretty much done with this. Okay. Yeah, that's the level 0 fragment. Okay. So let's say the use case 2. Use case 2 is a little bit simpler than, because you have fewer imports and fewer outputs. So let's see who going to be what's the source. Source is a patient, and also destination is a patient file. So that's pretty simple. Patient and patient file. So the patient file is D2. So the second use case What's the name of the use case? It's a collect a new patient info. Okay, I can actually call collected. Okay, so in this fragment, I have um, oh, just the one information, new patient info. Okay, new patient info. So new patient info actually consists of name, address, phone number, and the medical history. But in the level 0, it's just a new patient info. Okay. Source is actually patient. And the output is a patient info. The destination is a patient file. So that patient info is actually the same information that you get from the patient. So you collect the info from a patient, and then you actually put it in the patient file. So that's the new patient info. So if it's a new patient, then I have another use case just to basically collect the new patient info. And the use case 3, it's called the send appointment reminder card. Okay, send appointment reminder card. Okay, now, so in this fragment, what we're going to deal with? We're going to deal with a couple of sources: calendar, appointment file, patient file. Okay, calendar. So somewhere there's a calendar. Okay, and also we're going to deal with the calendar appointment file, patient file. Okay, so appointment file. So let's see, what is the appointment file? Patient file is D2. Okay, so appointment file D1, D2, a patient file. Okay, so for the output, we're going to deal with only the patient. So major output, we only deal with the patient. So patient here. So the input is a calendar date from the calendar. Okay, so the calendar date. This is actually not the data linker. This is actually the data coming from the calendar. So it's normally the calendar in the computer system. So the computer system gonna actually check the time, check the date, and then so the system gonna automatically check the patient file and to see who has appointment uh, in 2 weeks. Okay. So so the import is scheduled appointments from appointment file. Okay. From appointment file. It's a scheduled appointment from appointment file. Okay. So then it check against the calendar to see whether actually it's close to it's actually 2 weeks. I believe they actually ask to send the card within 2 weeks, right? So let's check. Made for the chance that recipients usually mails a reminder postcard to each patient 2 weeks before the appointment. Okay, so that's why they need to check the calendar. They check the calendar and they check the scheduled appointment, and calculate the scheduled appointment to see whether it's actually reaches the 2 weeks. If it reached the 2 weeks, then they're gonna actually send the appointment card, appointment notification card. Okay, appointment notification card. Now, but before the system send the appointment notification card, the patient need to actually get the scheduled appointment and get the patient name, patient information, and then they need to get the patient address, right? So that means the patient contact info. Normally the patient address. So once you got the scheduled appointment, the process is going to process the data, say, oh, this scheduled appointment involved the patient John, involved John, and so who is John? So let's check the patient file, and then I got the patient contact information, and then put the information, appointment information, and the patient information together. So I just create a card and mail the card to the patient. Okay, so that's the use case 3. Okay, so now you have 3 actually fragment. Okay, now based on the fragment, then you can actually combine the fragment together, and then you can create the level 0. You can create the level 0 data flow diagram. Now, how can I create the level 0 data flow diagram? Let's actually check. Okay. Let's see. Let me actually put this on one side, and here's an empty one. So looks like in the overall diagram, we actually involved the patient. We involved the patient, okay? So we basically involved the patient. So I'm gonna actually put the patient in there, okay? And then we have 3 different processes, right? So in fragment 1, I have a process 0. Oh, I have a process 1. This process actually says make or change appointment. Okay, so that's this one. Okay, and then I have another in use case 2, the fragment created by use case 2. I have another process to collect new patient info. Okay, and then I have another process called send appointment reminder. Reminder card. Okay, so these are the 3 processes. Okay, so now what about the other entities? So in here you have a D1 appointment file, D2 patient file, and in another fragment you have a patient file, and you have a D1 appointment file, D2 patient file. So it looks like you have 2 data store, right? D1 and the D2. Appointment file, patient file. Okay, Now the next job, next thing we're gonna do is you look at each of the data link from each of the entity patient data store, and then you connect all these links. Okay, because so I basically identify all the entities, 3 processes, 1 patient, 2 actually data store. So we basically connect all this. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, so I'm going to, just to repeat these things, connect. So I have a 2 import here. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the other way around. Okay, I have 2 actually output, scheduled appointment, available appointment, and a 3 import. Okay. So I can have a 2 import, 2 import, another import. I have a 2 output, 2 output here. And then what do I have? Well, I have a 1 import, 1 output. Okay. 1 import, 1 output. Okay. So that's, and to the D2, I have a 1 import, 1 output. Okay. Okay. So I need to actually put the name for each of the data link, but I'm just kind of lazy because there's so small space I cannot put in there. So I just now that's completed for 1 fragment. The other fragment, I have a patient to the collect information. Okay, so patient to the collect information, new patient information, and then I have a collect new patient information to the patient file. Okay, to the patient file. Okay, so it looks like that's finished the second one. The third one, I have a patient appointment card sent to the patient. Okay, appointment card sent to the patient. And also I have a calendar, which provide the time. Okay. And then I have data coming from the import data from appointment file, import data from patient file. So I have a patient file, and I have another import file from here. Okay. I think that's the level 0 data flow diagram. It's not pretty. If you want to see the complete one, I actually draw this data flow diagram here. You can take a look. I can actually post this on the Blackboard. Okay. So this is, yeah. This is actually the level 0 data flow diagram. Okay. Now for the context diagram, it's pretty simple. The context diagram really, it's really actually nothing, because if you look at the level 0, you can basically see the context diagram is just like this. There's only 1 patient. Okay. Because these 2, the data store, is actually inside this process. It doesn't show up in the context diagram. The context diagram only show the patient. Okay. Or also you can include a calendar in the context diagram. because the system will get the data from the, the current time from the from the calendar. So calendar is not part of the system. It's probably the, calendar is part of the computer, you know, system. So this basically give you the idea how to create this data flow diagram. So then next Tuesday, what I want to do is, so each team member gonna your own log into your own Google Meet link. Okay, so the two links I just posted on the Blackboard. So you can actually each team use their own link, and you try to discuss it. I'm gonna join your discussions. Okay, at the particular time, I'm gonna switch back and forth and join your discussion. And we can actually what I'm gonna do is I can actually discuss with you your last actually milestone work, the data flow diagram you created in your last milestone. And I try to discuss with you each individual team about how to improve this data flow diagram, because that's so important. I want to actually improve this before we move forward to our next phase. Okay, so that's basically something I want to talk about. Okay, so I think the milestone project is so important in this case, in our learning curve. So I want to correct this. Any actual error, any confusion, I want to I want to correct it. Okay. Okay. So any questions? So I'm going to post this example on the Blackboard, so you can actually take a look at you know, the jobs I just did. Okay. So let me. Okay. So this, so I still want you to go back and, go back to five, module five, 5A and 5B, and figure out how to create the data flow diagrams. Again, I don't think I posted this presentation material on the class. It was in the last class, but not in this class. But I'm gonna actually repost this module 5 on the Blackboard, so all of you can actually take a look at it again. And so then we're gonna discuss on Tuesday. Okay, so wait for my posting. The Blackboard posting. I'm gonna post the next milestone project, and so I think the next milestone project is to summarize all the work we have done for the last semester, so then we can discuss your work on the data flow diagram and try to improve it. Okay, so that it's not a new project. It's just actually some kind of work to correct all the any possible problems we have in last class, because it was too short. We didn't have enough time to do that job. I want to clean things up for this semester before we start the new chapter. Okay. Any questions?
Oh, all set.
Okay. So just check the Blackboard. I expect to post something tomorrow, and so you can take a look. Um, then send off the course documents, like the presentation materials for chapter 5, um, and also a new milestone project. So let's get started. Okay. Okay. I think that's pretty much all I have for today.
All right. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Have a nice day, Professor.
Okay. Okay. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah. I'll see you next week.